Michael DeRozier was a huge part of early Heart. He really made a difference, was influenced, of course, by John Bonham. But there are a few other drummers that really made a difference in his life. He talks about them and a lot more in this segment. This is Rock History Music. What are the drum parts of, for you? I know you like the old guys a lot, the traditional players, but are there certain drum parts? Like for me, it was a lot of your stuff. And Nigel Olsson, some of his very simple fills. I used to like "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me." I used to like Roger Pope. I used to like him because he's a busier drummer. I like busy drummers. But what were the parts for you that you'd stop and stare at the speakers and go, "Hey, that's pretty good"?
For that I played, or they're just other
that you heard from other people.
Oh, I don't know if you know Carmine Apiece. I don't know if you know Carmine. Yeah,
I've interviewed
I liked him. Just he was so aggressive. I was used to seeing Ringo and the guy that played with Herman's Hermits and guys that kind of do this when they played. And Carmine was up there, just really playing aggressive, and he did some really interesting things too. He was messing with subdivisions a lot more instead of just going. I mean, he did that, and it's still. I'm not. That will work forever. Guys will have played it, and they will continue to play it because it works. But he also pushed it a lot. He did a lot of. He was one guy that I used to see and listen to quite a bit because he just he really tried to do some work in some pretty interesting, almost kind of like, but it was cool.
That
very inventive.
In that clip when they're doing "You Keep Me Hanging On the Ed Sullivan Show," like a lot of people remember that because no one had done that on the Ed Sullivan Show before.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Yeah, he's a good interview.
Yeah, and he's a great guy, and he was a mentor of mine. That's the way I always looked at him, and I started endorsing Ludwig, and so he and I did a bunch of Ludwig clinics together and did some different things, and so I got to know him real well, and it was great hanging out with him because when I was like 17, I used to look at him and think, man, this guy's got some magic. There's some magic there somehow. Where's he getting that stuff? And then you get to know somebody and see how they stumble on something or where they got it, who they stole it from or whatever it is, and how they morphed it into something that would work for them. It was really, really cool being able to hang out with him and just talk drums, play together and stuff.
Did he tell you about his Bonham stories? He said Bonham, he had done something and Bonham had come up to him and said, hey man, how do you do that or something? I forget what he told me because the interview was 3 years ago, but it's one of his calling card stories. And of course, you'll always get this. You'll get the Zeppelin guys who go, oh, because Bonham's more popular, they decide that's an impossible story. And fans do that sometimes. I'm going, just because a guy's bigger, you know how people always pick Nigel Olsson's a great example. I love his simple drumming because less is more for him. But all Elton John fans will always pick Nigel as their favorite drummer when technically he's, you know what I mean? They're homers. They always pick the drummer for their favorite band, no matter what. It's just the way it goes. But you posted a picture of Alan White when Alan passed away. I talked to him, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and he was just so lovely to talk to. His stories were great. I mean, not everyone when they get older speak like they're old. And Alan, unfortunately, it's not his fault. It's just luck of the draw because he kind of talks like this. And I had to transcribe everything. And I enjoyed transcribing and I hate transcribing because I loved talking to the man so much. What are your experiences with Alan White?
Oh, we had done a lot of stuff together, and he's been living here for decades. I don't know how long he's been here, but we ended up doing tons of different events together, and I have a ton of respect for what he did as a musician, and just I tell my son or somebody that doesn't know his history, his background. Um, yeah, he's one of the very few people on planet Earth here that's played with anybody in the Beatles, except for Ringo. And somebody maybe when, you know, all those guys were 14 in somebody's basement.
Yeah.
But yeah, for him and what he played was great. He played very tasty. Instant Karma, I love what he played.
Instant Karma is crazy. I love that. Yeah. Love his drumming on that.
Yeah, so he just, I mean, he's got some really serious feathers in his cap, as far as I'm concerned.
And you know, they a lot of people just love Mike's drumming, and he's I mean, he's oh, there it is. He got a set right back there. He plays the drums in a way that not many drummers play anymore. And it was kind of the norm back in, you know, in the 70s, especially the mid 70s to the end of the 70s, that people played that way, where you treated the drum kit as a whole instead of you treating the drum kit as a snare drum and a bass drum. And that's all you basically cared about, which, you know, I got to say that there's some very brilliant, creative, you know, artists and technicians nowadays that have changed the landscape of sound. And what they've done is they've taken like our generation. I'm assuming you're from, you know, you listen to music of the 60s and 70s and 80s. And
I'm 62, so yeah, I grew up in the 70s, so yeah.
So that music was mixed and created for the album, and it was mixed and created for people sitting around with their friends, maybe having a cocktail or whatever they happen to enjoy, and all sitting down together and putting the record, you know, putting the record on the outside of putting the needle on the outside of the record, and then listening to the whole first side, and then they go, wow, and they turn it over and they listen to the second side. And that's the way they did it. And it was usually at home. I mean, people did listen to music a lot in the cars, but a lot of music consumption was at your home, and people spent a lot of money making their stereos nice and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Well, nowadays, I would say that most people listen to music in their cars. And that's what the producers and technicians have geared that sound for, is listening in your car, because you've got all this road noise, maybe the windows down, the air conditioner's blaring. So you have certain instruments and certain things that pop out that get above all that noise, and, you know, like the vocals and maybe, you know, a few percussion things that give you the, you know, the pulse and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it works for me. I mean, there's some artists that I truly love nowadays. And I truly love, like I said, the technicians and the people that.
Can you name a few that because everyone asks me when I do live feeds, because I'm always doing classic rock, right? And they say, well, you don't interview new people. I said, well, that would be another channel, because I've got to stay in my lane. Don't confuse the audience. But they're always asking me, because I'm a 40-year radio guy, right? Don't confuse the audience. But who are the people? They must send you music as well, don't they?
Well, no, but I just go around the radio and just tune it, you know, and I have a few stations that, you know, that come in really well, and they play, you know, they have good signal and they play the music, but it's not artist driven nowadays. Like back in the day, here's the new thing from Led Zeppelin. And it was so unique that, okay, yeah, it's obvious that's Led Zeppelin, but nowadays it's not so obvious who the artist is, but you understand that it is art, and it's good and it's excellent. And it's hard for me to keep up, really, with all the people.
But do you get, like, for instance, I ask the audience all the time when we do live feeds, and they react to this. And I'm sure you'll understand what I'm saying. Like Carry On Wayward Son, Bohemian Rhapsody, Stairway to Heaven. These are songs that, you know, they build and they're a journey. They take you on a journey. So when I heard those, Sultans of Swing was one that when I heard it, I went, what the hell? What is that? Because you were kind of referencing that, where you'll hear something and you literally stop what you're doing. I don't get that as much anymore, but I do like a lot of new music. I just don't get that. And the audience always says, I miss going into a record store and being excited. Because back then there was no internet. We didn't know what was going to be in there, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, were you ever bothered by the Zeppelin comparisons?
Well, it's understandable that those comparisons would be made. They were such a great influence, but for the group Nazareth to accuse us of ripping off the the galloping beat for Barracuda from them.
From This Flight Tonight? Was it This Flight Tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, I'm ripping off all these other guitar players because I use a guitar pick. You know, am I ripping off other guitar players because I use a guitar pick? No, and we weren't ripping off anybody because we used a galloping guitar part. There's galloping guitar parts in going back centuries in the history of music. So Bonanza.
Actually, Bonanza's the that's true. I hope you really enjoyed that. I want to address the fact that it looks like I have a black eye, but I just got a big mole removed from the top of my eye, and then a secondary one over here. So it looks like I've been in a bad bar fight. The doctor was very kind, and it doesn't hurt. If you want to support the channel, remember the 2 P's, Patreon and PayPal. If you join our Patreon, you'll get early access to all our videos. And if you simply want to make a donation, you can make one right now. The links are at the top of the description on PayPal. Buy a t-shirt, subscribe to the channel, like our videos, and of course, comment on them as well, and share them on social media. We'd appreciate that.